given birth for a brief but purposeful life, to carry men where no man has gone before. An Apollo Saturn launch countdown for a lunar mission is underway. You are in the firing room, containing the control and monitoring equipment for the most powerful space vehicle ever launched. The countdown is holding T-minus 3 minutes and 15 seconds. 3 hours ago, the astronaut crew left their quarters and moved to the launch pad. They are now inside the spacecraft, waiting for the countdown to complete. The display board on your right indicates that NASA's worldwide tracking network is ready for launch. The network includes ground stations, tracking ships, and specially instrumented aircraft. The terminal count sequence report on your left shows the present status of the launch vehicle. When the countdown is resumed, this board will display the final 3 minutes, 7 seconds of launch activity. The test supervisor is polling his test conductors. You should be about ready to pick up the count.
CTSS, verify go for launch. CTSS, verify go for launch. CTSC, verify go for launch. CTSC, verify go for launch. SRO, verify go for launch. SRO, verify go for launch. LM, verify go for launch. LM, go for launch. DLO, verify go for launch. DLO, go for launch. CTS, go. Attention all personnel. The countdown clock will start on my mark at T-minus 3 minutes and 15 seconds. 3, 2, 1, mark. T-minus 3 minutes and 15 seconds and counting. 3:10.
This is Apollo Saturn Launch Control. We are at go for Apollo 11. Firing command coming in now. We're on an automatic sequence as the master computer supervises hundreds of events occurring over these last few minutes. We are at go with all elements of the mission at this time.
This is the launch operations manager. The launch team wishes you good luck and Godspeed. Thank you very much. Don't be good.
And the final checks between several key members of the crew here in the control center and the astronauts. Launch operations manager Paul Valley wished the crew on the launch team's behalf good luck and Godspeed. Neil Armstrong reported back when he received the good wishes. Thank you very much. We know it will be a good flight. We're still going on Apollo 11 at this time. The vehicle is starting to pressurize as far as the propellant tanks are concerned, and all is still going as we monitor our stratosphere. 2 minutes, 10 seconds, and counting. The target for the Apollo 11 astronauts, the moon at liftoff, will be at a distance of 218,096 miles away. We just passed the 2-minute mark on the countdown. T-minus 1 minute, 54 seconds, and counting. Our status report indicates that the oxidizer tanks in the second and third stages now have pressurized. We continue to build up pressure in all 3 stages here at the last minute to prepare for a liftoff. T-minus 1 minute, 35 seconds on the Apollo mission. The flight to land, the first men on the moon. All indications coming in to the control center at this time indicate we are at go. 1 minute, 25 seconds and counting. Our status report indicates the third stage is quickly pressurized. 80-second mark has now been passed. We'll go on full internal power at the 50-second mark in the countdown. Guidance system goes on internal at 17 seconds. We're going to the ignition sequence at 8.9 seconds. We're approaching the 60-second mark on the Apollo 11 mission. T-minus 60 seconds and counting. We passed T-minus 60. 55 seconds and counting. Neil Armstrong just reported back. It's been a real smooth countdown. We passed the 50-second mark. Power transfer is complete. We're on internal power with the launch vehicle at this time. 40 seconds away from the Apollo 11 liftoff. All the second stage tanks now pressurized. 35 seconds and counting. We are still go with Apollo 11. 30 seconds and counting. Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence starts. 6,
seats are good seats, folks.
The command service module on display here is identical to those used on all lunar missions. This is actual flight hardware, real. The service module is just behind the cone-shaped command module. It contains the life support systems, electrical, communications, and propulsion. It carried the engine and fuel for the return trip to Earth. After the Apollo space... The lunar module and scientific equipment displayed in this room are actual flight hardware. The lunar module is just as you'd see it on the moon. The lower half of the module is the descent stage. Its engine was used to control the landing on the moon. That gold-colored foil around the lower section is Mylar. It's a tough insulation against daytime heat that would boil water instantly. The other half of the lunar module is the ascent stage, containing the crew compartment and liftoff engine. This small compartment was home for our lunar explorers for up to 5 days while they lived and worked on the moon. The letter on the side of the lunar module could never support the weight of a fully spacesuited astronaut on Earth, but in lunar gravity, a 200-pounder man would only weigh a little over 30 pounds. Neil Armstrong was the first to use the lunar module ladder on the first moon landing, July 20th, 1969.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Each crew of astronauts set up scientific equipment around their lunar base camp. The instruments measured moon quakes, temperature variations, and cosmic particles hitting the moon. Scientific equipment at each base camp was powered by a nuclear electric generator. Data was relayed to Earth for years before the equipment was turned off from Earth. It can be turned on again whenever more information is needed. The large umbrella-shaped antenna acted as a transmitting and receiving relay station between mission control on Earth and men at work on the lunar surface. In order to work on the moon, each astronaut was outfitted in a heavy spacesuit with life support systems in his backpack. Without that suit, a man could never survive the vacuum of space, deadly solar radiation, and temperatures in hundreds of degrees. Moving about in heavy spacesuits was restricted, but the lower lunar gravity was helpful. At the right of the moon base exhibit, a lunar rover vehicle is being deployed. Lunar rover vehicles were used by 3 Apollo crews to drive over the moon's surface. With battery-powered 4-wheel drive, the rover allowed the astronauts to travel several miles from their base camp. Top speed was about 9 miles an hour.
Well, when you hit the craters and start bouncing is when you get to droop the tail. Man, you're really bouncing. He's got about 2 wheels on the ground. It's a big rooster tail out of all 4 wheels. And as he turns, he skids the back end and breaks loose just like on snow. Then I'll tell you, anytime I see a driver like this.
The rover also carried the astronauts to the mountains of the moon and to the edge of deep craters. The astronauts collected rock and soil samples from many areas of the moon for study back on Earth. 3 slightly used rovers are still on the moon, just waiting for someone to arrive with fresh batteries.
Okay, Houston, as I stand out here, the wonders of the unknown, sort of realize there's a fundamental truth to our nature. Man must explore.
and they will return. However, the next lunar mission will be flown by a new generation of astronauts and spaceships. The men of Apollo are looking to today's young men and women and the teenagers of America to carry out the next flight to the moon. The challenge is yours. Today's youth must prepare to plan that voyage, build the spaceships, design lunar bases, and again travel to the moon in peace for all mankind.
Above the roar of the engine of the bus here and the jabber of the Filipinos, Japanese, and Koreans and everything else, I won't try to narrate none of this.
上到一半，即係仲未離開個主翼嗰只，呢度係地底，即係呢度係地底，我知嗰只係地底。
So he just shut it down for 3 years, and till I got back. And he says, well, George, you're old enough now, and I'm old enough to get out. So Marge and I opened it up again. And well, I got home in December of 45, and in February of 46, Marge and I opened up, and we changed it from, we modernized the name from Pinus Home Bakery to Pinus Pastries. So we sound a little more modern. But, and we kept that going for 20 years as a full line of bakery. And then at the end, we developed this rye chip that you're going to see. And then we went strictly into the wholesale and into the rye chip business. And now my two sons, who I'm very proud of, have taken my little neighborhood bakery thing and made a very nice plant out of it, which you're going to see tomorrow. And it's strictly their baby. I had nothing to do with this. We gave them the product, but they went ahead with it. And so that's what we're going to see tomorrow. And like I say, that's as much as my history since 1945. So,
that's for the longest.
So Jack, you're next on the program.
I milked as much as I could out of it. I stayed until the very last day, and then when they said, your time has come, go, I went. That was 1970. Since that time, we've had a lot of fun. Actually, we I wanted to buy a trailer and then buy a house, but my good manager here said, buy the house first because I want a place to come back to. So we bought a house and then we bought a trailer, and we traveled fairly extensively. Had a great time at it. I got bored back in about '77 and took up, of all things, lapidary work and jewelry making, which was great fun, but got kind of tired of it after a while. Then I guess the biggest thing was I've been a mason for some years, but did nothing with it. And all of a sudden they found that I was retired and I was good for 5 days a week of work. So I hammered, sawed, nailed, and whatever for 3 years, and then got into the other side. So masonry has been a big thing with us. Along the way, I've golfed a bit and managed to go through about 4 airplanes for fun. And what else? Well, no, the last thing, I can't help but tell them about the computer. I decided that time was passing me by because I knew nothing whatever about computer. They said boot it up. I said, how do you boot a computer? And so I got a computer, and now I'm on the third computer. I still don't know anything about it, but I'm trying harder every day. I wish, yeah, I even play games with it now. So really, the military career, to go back just for a minute, I left the government service. I was in first the FBI and then went to the Bureau of Biological Survey before World War II. And after going into the military, starting with the Horse Cavalry, I went then into tanks and went overseas from the 10th Armored Division, got into the French training section, and from there went to a number of different units like most of you know. And at the end of that time, I elected to stay in the military, so I went to Berlin with the U.S. military government and military government for Germany, and I was the acting director of personnel for military government for a time before coming back to the States. And the military career was a typical one. At the highlight, I guess, of all of it, I commanded a brigade in the 2nd Armored Division for a year. And I really thoroughly enjoyed the military time. I guess I had the position enough to where I had some of the better things and fewer of the worst things, so it worked very well. That's it.
Was that
In 1940, Fort Myer, Virginia, Horse Cavalry. During the war, well, the next was Fort Benning, Georgia, with 10th Armored Division. And after coming back in 47, I went to Fort Knox, where I was commanding, you won't believe this, the 45th Armored Medical Battalion.
That's fine. I'll buy that.
And from there, went to Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, as an instructor at the Army's Command and General Staff College. From there to Austria, U.S. Forces Austria, G2. Then to headquarters USARUR in Heidelberg. Back to ROTC at West Virginia University. Then to headquarters 2nd Army at Fort Meade, Maryland. From there, overseas to Taiwan. Back to Fort Hood, where I commanded the Combat Command B of the 2nd Armored Division. From there to head the Command Staff Department of the Armor School. Then to Fort Eustis, Virginia, where I was Director of Operations for my last 4 years. That's it.
I went to work for the same people I was working for before I went into service, and that didn't last only about 30 days. They wasn't paying anything at all. So then I went, a company called me, a big wholesale company called me out of Quad Cities and Davenport. I worked for them for 27 years. And I was the manager of several of their ranch stores and a road salesman for 3 years. And they sold part of this company out, and I went along as furniture. And the man that took care of this, he didn't like me, so I was, what they call it, relieved my position, fired. So I was accused of several things, which wasn't true, but I didn't fight it. So then I had this back in my mind for a long time of getting bait and tackle business on the river. So that's where I'm at today.
Have your own business.
All righty. I have a little comment for George sitting right there. Now, I noticed he pronounces his name Pina. Is that correct? And I've been calling it Pina all this time because we used to buy those little curly crackers that you make for many years. And I didn't know that he was in this outfit. The other thing, I had a sheet metal shop about 1.5 miles from his bakery in Milwaukee. And I was there for 27 years. Believe that or not. And we still eat those crackers. And then I had to confess to him the other day, and I said, once in a while we buy Gardetto because he was a good customer. Well, he said, he's our best customer. So see how small the world is?
Oh, you were that close.
All righty.
Well, we've been called a lot worse than that, though.
Anyway,
And you can imagine what it is.
my name is Orson Hoyam, and after I got out of the service, I came from a small farm up in the central part of the state. And I went home and I talked to my dad, and he said, well, I haven't got any money to give you. You know, if you want to go into farming, it's going to take some money. So then I decided, well, about that time the GI Bill came along, and that was a godsend for me. I went to the Milwaukee School of Engineering. When I got out of the Milwaukee School of Engineering, I went to work for a company right here in Milwaukee called Alfred Gaithel Sheet Metal. They're still in business today, and in '93 they'll be 100 years old. And I stayed right there all my working life, 39 years, and I was the president the last 13 years. And then I sold the company to two partners I had. I got one of the men had been an apprentice in our shop and went all the way. And a lot of times they'll tell you you have to have engineers and you have to have this and you have to have that. But you also have to have a man that's business smart to run a business. I don't care. So, and this guy had that. He hired an engineer after I left because I happened to be the engineer part of that. And I sold the company and I moved to Appleton. I moved there because I have a daughter that lives up there, and I have a cottage in Iola, and where I lived in Milwaukee was changing, as George well knows, and I just had to get out of there. So that's kind of a quick, I do several things now, and when I got to Appleton, all of a sudden I discovered here I worked all my life, ran a little business, could never get any time off hardly. I never had over 2 weeks off my whole life for vacation. But when I got up there, I got involved with the Shrine Club, and we take children to the Shrine Hospital down in Chicago. I happen to be the president of that club this year. Then I belong to SCORE. That's a group that works with the Small Business Administration with people that want to go in business, you know, to help them, to guide them, and tell them, for God's sakes, don't go in a restaurant business. That's one of the worst businesses to go into. And then I also belong to Kiwanis up there, which is another act. So I keep busy. That's all.
Yeah.
I hate to get up and talk after him. Anyway, after the service, I worked in Chicago for Western Electric for about 2 years, and then I transferred to St. Paul, worked for Western Electric there, but then they closed down. So then I went to work for American Bridge, which was U.S. Steel. I was a welder for a few years, and I guess I didn't care for that. So then I ended up at the post office too. So I've been about 30 years or so at the post office. So, and I retired from the post office. So yeah, that's about it. I still work a little part-time at the golf course as a ranger, and I love my golf.
What's your brother Andy doing?
Andy's retired. All he goes to old timers games and baseball card shows. And keeps himself busy.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Phil Jordan, and I come home from the service to Minneapolis, Minnesota in '45, November. And like Savage, I went back to where I'd left in '42. Lasted about 2 weeks, and I didn't like it, and I didn't like Minneapolis, so my wife and I packed up with no kids yet and went out to the state of Washington, Everett, Washington. And I got into the GI Bill out there and went to the University of Washington in the economics of life insurance. Well, I handled that about 2 years until it got so damn boring I just couldn't handle that anymore. Moved back to Minneapolis and went to work with my in-laws. And they had a business of coin machines and jukeboxes, etc. And we worked on that and bought 2 taverns and ran the whole business between the in-laws and outlaws, 5 of us, until 1957, at which time we sold the whole thing out. And at that time I wanted something to do, so I went to work with Sears. I opened a new store in St. Paul, and I opened it up as manager of 3 departments. Again, I got restless about that time, and I was there for quite a while, and then transferred to Minneapolis as a salesman, commission only, which was the smartest move I ever made. And I stayed with that and transferred to Houston, Texas, where I went into a little store, what they call a appliance store, and made a good living for my family, and retired in '81, February. and my wife died in '75, and Jerry and I got together in '84 in church, and so we've got 87 years of marriage between us. 42 for me, a very beautiful marriage. She had 48 good years before her husband died. And we're going good. So that's it.
45, I went back with the Air Force as a civilian, as a mechanic in the auto repair business. And I eventually worked myself up to shop foreman of the vehicle shops during the Korean War. And we had quite a deal there with those old Army vehicles pulled out of Europe. They sent them to us during the war, Korean War, to overhaul. So we were overhauling all that old World War II stuff, believe it or not, to send to Korea. Wife and I we've had 3 children. We have 2, a boy and a girl. We lost one. And during our early marriage life, I became involved in making boat club and ended up, I was Commodore of the boat club. I started a ski troop in our club, and believe it or not, we went all over the state of Georgia putting on ski shows.
Water ski. Water ski.
But we enjoyed that. We took up boating, and we've been all the way from middle Georgia down to Miami by boat, every bit of the way. We had a 26-foot cabin cruiser that wife and daughter and I pulled to Daytona, put in at Daytona, and we went all the way to Miami and back, and we didn't even take a alarm clock with it. We just stopped and fished where we wanted to. During that time, I worked with the Middle Georgia Sportsman Club, the Georgia Sportsman Federation. In 1954, I was selected as a Middle Georgia Outstanding Sportsman. In my job, I went from the vehicle shop into tech services and material handling equipment for the Air Force. That's forklifts, tubs, cranes, and stuff like that. And I kept that job for quite a while until I moved into Chief of Quality Control for procurement. And I had quite a few inspectors, and we covered southeast United States on that, and I was out quite a bit running around on that job. Later on, I went into, I accepted a job in 1966 as a weapons system logistics officer for the B-66 aircraft in Southeast Asia. My wife and I, she went with me, and we stayed in Bangkok from January 1966 until mid part of 1970.
Don't forget.
Oh, my daughter was with us too. My son was back in school. But during that time, we were able to see from Japan on down to Malaysia, and we traveled whenever we could. And we enjoyed that pretty well. During that stay in Bangkok, the wife lived in Bangkok, and I was in a remote location called Tak Lee. That was about 250 miles north of Thailand. And we flew the 105s out of Tak Lee with my B-66s. During the time I was there, I was running back and forth between Thailand and Vietnam, hunting parts and working with the military there. At one time, during the Tet Offensive, I had a group of about 12 Air Force personnel in Saigon, and we got caught in the Tet Offense. I was able to get all of the men out except me and a master sergeant, and we spent about, I think it was 3 days and 4 nights under the benches in the airport in Saigon, dodging. But that sergeant that was with me, he has stayed in touch with me, and we went to visit them in South Carolina not long ago. He turned out to be a very good friend. I was in and out of Vietnam there from 66 to 70, and then we came back home. Believe it or not, I went back to Vietnam with a team of about 27 men out of Corpus Christi, Texas, to teach the Vietnamese how to overhaul the UH-1 helicopters. I had the mechanics and the riders. We had to take the Air Force repair manual and the Army Air Force repair manual, condense them, and write overhaul manual for the Vietnamese Air Force. When I left, we had finished the job, and when I left, the paperwork was in one of the Vietnamese drawers, and I think it's probably still there. The communists didn't pull it out, but during that time, the Viet Cong did try to hit my hangar, and they threw 3 one of those Russian 120s in on us one morning. But it just so happened that I was in the bathroom shaving when the first one hit, and I crawled all the way back to my room, put on my flak jacket and helmet, and got under the bed. And when I was laying there, I decided I still had a mouth full of toothpaste that I had every time to spit out. But after that, I went to Iran with a team. We went to Tehran in Iran, and we set up the Air Force supply system and fuel depot for the Iranian Air Force. I spent 3 months on that job there, and that was exactly 3 months too much, because I was really glad to get out of that place. When I came back, the wife and I toured Europe. She brought a Eurail pass, and I went back to what's the name of that town where those kids live? No, well, we went into Frankfurt.
Wiesbaden.
I went into Wiesbaden hunting German kids that I had lived with in Kesselheim. And while we Wiesbaden, the operators found the kids, and they were in that jury city, not very far from there. Somebody bought some jewelry there the other, 2 nights in Ida Oberstein with one of the girls, and 1 night in Beauport with the young boy. And they treated us like kings because I had sent them some care packages.
Right.
I had sent them some care packages when I had gotten back home, and they never had forgot it. And believe it or not, Ruth still had my picture on her mantelpiece at that time. They had given me a birthday party on my 23rd birthday, And it so happened, back when I was over there on my 53rd birthday, they gave me another part. 30 years later, we found them all. And we still corresponded every now and then with the group over there. I retired in 1978 after 38 and a half years service as a civilian with the Air Force, and on August 12, 1991, my wife and I were married 50 years, and that's my detail.
You lied. Anyway,
Well, my wife, God bless her soul, and I, we had 6 wonderful kids, 4 boys, 2 girls. I was a police officer, 25 and a half years, retired from Illinois State as a lieutenant. 1977, my men and I led a truck enforcement team in Illinois that brought in over $4 million on the state highway. In 1979, my men and I broke the biggest auto theft ring going. So
in Illinois?
In Illinois, which involved about 4 murders and whatnot. But that was about the end of my story.
How did you do that? Come on, tell us more about that theft.
Well, I just had some wonderful fellows working for me that were able to go through the titles in Illinois. And it was the gentleman that, one of the thieves, when he was doing these titles in order to sell these stolen cars, when he wrote them, he had a hook in his J. And this was involving mostly Cadillacs. And so we'd go to every one of these titles, cars that were titled like that there. We'd inspect the back of the motor, because your motor and your transmission have the same number as your VIN number on your dash of your car. And that there, we'd find the car stolen. That year we got, I think, 152 stolen Cadillacs.
Were they selling them right in the state of Illinois?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Then here in Wisconsin, you know, you had some thieves stole a bunch of Wisconsin titles. What they did, they just walked down the street and they copied the number of all Lincolns on a piece of paper. Then they come to Illinois, they typed this all up on your Wisconsin title papers. They went and paid the sales tax in the state of Illinois to get Illinois titles and insured the cars there, and then reported them stolen. There was no cars. The FBI, though, took that ring over for simple reason. They always liked the big things and never did want to help you do the small things.
You know what they call those leftovers? Those
So
Cadillacs.
that's about it.
Those are lease cars.
The rubber plant in Eau Claire, Uniroyal. And then I went into the labor movement. I participated in organizing in various capacities and was president of the union for quite 14 years. In 1964, I started the credit union at the rubber plant in Eau Claire. There was 6 of us that put in $800 to start it out. And it's grown throughout the years. I served and am serving on the board of directors as chairman. This is the largest credit union in the state of Wisconsin today, with assets of about approximately $180 million right now. And this all evolved from that little credit union that we started. In 1972, I was forced to retire with a heart condition. So, other than serving on various committees around the country and in the Democratic Party, I haven't done a thing since 1972 except fish and hunt and enjoy my children and grandchildren.
How many children you got, John?
Quite a few.
How many you got, John?
We have 9 children and we have 18 grandchildren.
Oh,
No great-grandchildren. My wife isn't here because she's spending her time with a very dear friend in Milwaukee who was in very poor condition. She just lost her husband 2 months ago, but she's going to be here with us tomorrow. And
glad to have you be there at that time. Wonderful.
I got out of the Army and went to work. Started kind of on the bottom, sheet metal sort of business. I spent 17 years punching a clock. When I realized then that I knew everything there was about sheet metal business, I opened my own shop 29 years ago. I found out just how dumb I was. Real fast. And, I worked some long hours, some hard hours. And, I got out of slowly. I've gone up now. I have my own place. Been trying to sell it for about 6 years. A lot of people with a lot of ambition, no money. I'd like to quit, but then I don't. What am I going to do? My wife and I travel here and there. Hawaii. I come back, I got something to do. Believe me, I said I was going to quit and I was going to do nothing the rest of my life, but well, that's been awful. So I left there 2 weeks ago. Shop was going full blower. I hope it's still going. I haven't called. No, I won't bother them. They know what they're doing. So tomorrow I'm home. I'll find out if I got anything left. As I said, I started working and still working. I haven't missed a day. I'm sorry, I missed 2 days. In 17 years of working for someone else. Well, you start on the bottom and slowly you gain a little knowledge. When I thought I knew it all here, I moved to another shop, to another place. I'm still learning.
Never finish, isn't that?
It's
the name of the game?
Clean, honorable, we do a good job. Very comfortable. I have a son, but he's so it just says I can't do this. Hopefully somebody will come along and buy me up. What would I do? What would I do?
To go fishing with coffee.
You'll probably find me in there someday, stretched out on the floor. I'll be happy. I like to work.
Good. Good for you.
I do not have a name tag. Guess that makes me the unknown soldier. Johnny Carter. Born in Milwaukee, still live there. I started in first grade at church school, and 69 years later, I'm still, almost 70 years, I'm still in the same church, same congregation. I guess that's kind of a long period to be in one place. I started to work in a heavy construction equipment industry in 1936, and I worked there for 47 and a half years. And I was a member of the union, of that union, for over 60 years. At least you get the idea that I do things long jumps. Married a girl in Seattle for 47, 43 and a half years when she, Lord graciously took her. And my big thing in my life in the military or any other way has been playing the piano. So I'm usually known as either Ray, piano player, or sometimes that's shortened to just the piano player.
Great.
I must say that the Lord has given me a special talent to be able to entertain people, and I had the faculty of hearing a tune and playing. So I must say that my tenure in the service and out of service, I worked with the big band for how many years? The golden age of music. And the greatest joy that I've had is to be able to play the tunes that people like to hear and to entertain them in a way that they would ultimately.
There's a piano out there. We'll let you
I will
demonstrate
demonstrate
that.
Well,
Yeah.
I have not played the piano for quite a few months, but I'll take you up on that.
Okay, good.
Take that into consideration.
Certainly will.
I don't do anything on hand. Thank you. One other thing I'd like to add, if I may. Talking about longevity, I've been a member of the VFW for 47 years. Another big jump. And I guess because I'm a high-ranking officer in the VFW, I'd like to say that I hope all of you veterans here belong to some kind of a veterans organization. Because believe me, you and your children are going to be dependent on that. Our government has been taking away our rights, and I want to make a spiel here, but the only place where you have that clout is in Congress. And the only clout we have is the fact that we have now a member of the cabinet is with the VA, and we have a few congressmen and senators that were veterans. And Lord help us to keep that clout moving, otherwise we'll be. Thank you. That's the smooth one.
Well, it's tough being this far down the line. I've got some pretty tough acts to follow. Mine is rather bland, you might say. I got home and separated at Fort Devens, Massachusetts, back in February of '46. First thing we did, we got married. 45 happy years so far. Went to work in the large printing plants, printing Bibles, dictionaries, and all sorts of things. And finally wound up in the school department, doing printing and teaching printing in the high school. And that retired about 7 years ago. I play golf, and I have a small print shop that I putter around in just to keep my fingers in it. I don't do much work because I'd rather go out and play golf if I can. That's about the size of it. I don't know what else to add. But we've had a happy life so far, and we like to travel too. That we've been on many trips. One cruise.
How many children do you have?
We have 3 daughters and 1 son. One daughter just came back from Egypt. She was there for about a year. And she kissed the ground when she came home. She was in Giza, just outside, near the pyramids. She said the way the people live over there is something out of this world. Very, very different. She's happy to be home. Yeah.
Last year, we had the pleasure of bringing a couple from 30 miles east of us along to the reunion. And this year, they didn't come. George Rhodes died 29th of July. And he was buried 31st of July. So, the first thing I done when I got out here, I go home, there's a son that I'd never seen. He was 2 years old. And that's the first thing I did, get acquainted with him. Then, before I went in the Army, I worked for Philco, radio captains. And when I come back, I went back. I worked there till another 5 years. And I bought a farm in I kept on working the farm and the job too. In 1956, I quit the Philco. And 1960, her father died, and her farm was joined to us. We bought that, so we had two farms. So, in 1981, was it when I got sick?
Yeah.
In 1981, I didn't get sick, I got an aneurysm. And it's operated on. Had to put out a farm because of the limit to what I could live. So my son took the farming, and he does all the milking the cows and stuff like that. But I do a lot of tractor work. Drive the tractor. My wife and I, we've been married 48 years. I'm 49. And we have 3 boys and a girl. Nine grandchildren, and 1 great grandchildren. About it.
This guy's lucky, he's the only farmer in the bunch. I don't know, I got out of the service and I guess I was lucky for a year. I went to work for a relative of mine as a tool and die designer for a molding company. My dad had a small print shop down in the cellar, and the relative talked us into going into the printing business. So my dad and I moved to a little town of northeast Pennsylvania, bought a little printing plant. I guess we ran that until my dad got tired of it. He wanted to go to Arizona. I managed the print shop for a while, and a friend came in and says, "We need a salesman over at the oil company." So I went into oil sales for a while. Vietnam War came along, we didn't have anything to sell. So where did I go from there? I don't know.
I don't know.
I was over the road salesperson.
Insurance, what have you?
Insurance for 8 years and so forth and so on. You might call me a miserable failure, but I enjoy every minute. Lottie and I have been married for 48 years, lived in the same house for 45 years. 1 son, 1 daughter, and 1 grandchild. That's it.
I came back on the SS Paula out of France to New York. Some of you may have been on it. I don't know. We left on November 1st, 1945. And I was assistant crew commander. The crew commander was a major, and he was an engineer. And you were talking to him every day, of course, and I said, what do you do before you came to service? So I told him I was a graduate in accounting, did accounting work. He said, if you stay in accounting, you ought to be a CPA, and you ought to study for it, pass it. So when I got back home, I went to public accounting, and after a while, in '49, I got to be a CPA, and in that business for 17 years. And I was a partner, of course, at that time, and one of our clients needed somebody in finance, so I was employed as Vice President of Finance for that company. They started in 1946, and I guess at that time it was pretty sizable amount. But anyway, it got up, of course, kept building up over the years, and in 1963, I went with him full-time as Vice President of Finance, and it kept on growing and growing. In I kept, of course, progressing from Vice President to Executive Vice President, and then President, and so on down the line. In 1986, I was made Chairman, and at the time the assets were something like $750 million, which we thought was a pretty sizable amount. June 30th this year is $1.5 billion, and it was something like $90 million. So I guess it's pretty sizable growth. I tell people, sometimes people from Texas, that last year, in November last year, we bought a company in Texas, a very sizable company. We started off with about, when I went with them, they had about 50 employees, and now they have 1,300.
Wow.
And we have 2 children, 1 daughter and 1 son. Our daughter has 2 children, 2 daughters. One of them 26, one of them 23. Our son and his wife have 1 little girl, 7 years old. They live in South Florida, so we have a good excuse to go down there periodically. But we've been married, in February this year we were married 52 years. So.
Got everybody?
Yes. You got some of them little crystals on top.
That's not medicine.
Well, I need that.
We're looking at the little bakers.
This is when
Mind you're on candid camera, Charlie's at work.
2 years later, Carl was,
Wow,
of
young lady,
course, I
candid
was
camera.
working in the store all the time, and everybody knew that the bakers were coming, and so. Yeah. So you're trying to catch them, Tammy?
Yeah. Trying to find him.
Making the bread that they make the rye chips out of. And years ago, naturally, we used to get all of our flour in 100-pound sacks, the way regular flour is delivered. But needless to say, they use so much of it that it not only took a lot of labor to open up the bags, but time. And the price is a lot less when we buy it in the bulk. So, you know, the silos that the farmers have, where's, come on now, that's enough of that.
Mrs. Peanut gives us a briefing on the manufacturing of baking of their rye chip.
What about the rye chips? We're not going to make them all wear helmets, are we? You'll see that big hoses that just pump it right up there.
This nice and cool.
Yeah, here it is with a nice breeze coming through and the fans are going. Keep track of it. We're trying to avoid this process. At the other place, they used to have shelves like those green ones over there, and they had them all stacked up. They're trying to do away with this timing by getting a microwave oven that would, they could take it right from the regular oven, cut it, shoot it through the microwave to come out the other side and cut it up. So they would eliminate this process. They brought a machine up here from New
filters the oil so it can be reused. Now I'll shut it off and go to the other side. so you can see what is filtered out. All that is the crumb being filtered out so it can be reused. Here they're toasted to make them crispy.
Doesn't fit. You got to hold it to one side. There you go. Now you got it. Now get him. Get him.
I've got him for about 5 minutes already.
Are you getting your bowl?
I'm taking this one out, Jack. Dinger. Do you remember what the name of that ship was?
Providence.
The sail ship?
Yeah.
The Providence.
Just like Providence, Rhode Island?
Providence, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
That's pretty close to Boston, huh?
Not too far away. You haven't been to Boston yet?
I've been in Boston.
You have been to Boston? When
Yeah.
you came home from the service?
When I came home from the service, when I took training there on the gyro stabilizer.
Oh.
I
You
was
didn't
at,
go to Fort Devens, did you?
no, I went also to Springfield to,
the Arsenal?
yeah. I went there and went to school at Gilbert and Barker. I'll catch right up to him, boy. He's right hitting our stern now. With this camera, I brought that tugboat. Looked like he was right here.
Really? You brought him right in close?
Yeah. This here is a bridge that goes to nowhere. Actually, this bridge was supposed to go to Chicago. We're going back into the Milwaukee River now. August the 28th, 1991, 1:14 p.m. Hey,
They're serving dessert. I got a picture.
Roy says they're serving dessert. He's leaving me. The boys all have had a good meal. They don't look too hungry anymore.
There's more than one way to skin a cat.